Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled you're here today because we are tackling something that frustrates, well, literally millions of people around the globe, learning a new language. But today, we're going to completely demystify the process of learning English, and we're doing it by looking at a beautifully structured, highly visual roadmap. Seriously, forget the endless stacks of textbooks for a second. We're going to look at the entire journey of English fluency mapped out on one single brilliant image. Okay, let's just dive right into this.
Notice how a massive, honestly sometimes overwhelming task becomes entirely approachable here. Right in the dead center is your anchor. It just says, start here, your journey. And around that compass, arranged almost like islands in a giant archipelago, are the 8 essential pillars. Every single successful English learner absolutely has to visit these 8 islands. So, our explainer today is essentially going to be an island-hopping adventure across this exact map, revealing how every single piece flawlessly connects to the next.
All right, here is our flight plan for today. We're going to cover starting your fluency journey, building your language foundation, absorbing the language, expressing yourself clearly, and finally, perfecting the nuances. Okay, up first, Section 1, starting your fluency journey. The absolute most crucial foundational mindset is right here, from beginner to fluent, one step at a time. Listen, fluency is definitely not an overnight leap. It's a highly intuitive, systematic process. You don't just wake up one morning speaking perfectly, right? You take it step by step, island by island. And honestly, by adopting this mindset right from the get-go, you instantly relieve all that pressure to be perfect, and you give yourself the breathing room to actually learn. Moving right along to Section 2, building your language foundation. These next 2 spots are the raw materials you absolutely must have to construct the English language. If we fly up to the top left region, we find 2 foundational islands sitting right side by side, the green vocabulary node and the purple grammar node. Think of these as your building blocks and your mortar. Let's touch down on vocabulary first. On the vocabulary island, there are 4 specific areas of focus. First, simply learning words, the basic units of meaning. Next up is synonyms, and this is where your language really starts to get rich. Instead of just saying good over and over, you learn to say excellent or fantastic. Then, there's a highly effective tool suggested here, flashcards for memorization. And finally, topics. You don't just want to memorize random, disconnected words. You learn words grouped by topics, like business, travel, or food. This is exactly how you build a really robust baseline arsenal for your brain to draw from. But here's the thing. Words floating around alone mean basically nothing without structure. And that takes us right next door to grammar. Grammar requires 4 logical steps. Tenses allow you to navigate time, past, present, and future, which, let's be real, can admittedly be a massive headache in English. Then we have our nouns, the things, and our verbs, the actions. And finally, sentences. That's the ultimate goal of the grammar node, where you combine everything together. It brilliantly illustrates how grammar takes all those individual flashcards from the vocabulary island and organizes them into actual coherent thoughts.
That brings us to Section 3, absorbing the language.
We're now flying eastward, crossing right over the compass to the right side of the map, finding 2 massive input islands, listening and reading. This is what linguists actually call the input phase. It's this crucial time where you actively absorb how native speakers are actually using the English language out there in the wild. It is so incredibly vital to contrast these 2 core pillars. Listening is your audio input. It trains your ear to the speed, the rhythm, and the flow of spoken English. Reading, on the other hand, is your visual text input. It trains your brain to recognize spelling, punctuation, and those complex grammatical structures. Really, they're just 2 sides of the exact same comprehension coin. You simply can't achieve true fluency without a really healthy balance of both. So let's unpack that listening node with some everyday sources. Podcasts, much like the explainer you're listening to right now, are absolutely incredible for focused, topical listening. Songs make the language super sticky through melody and repetition. Dialogues help you understand the natural back-and-forth rhythm of human interaction. And news? Well, news challenges you with much more formal, articulate, and faster-paced English. Moving down to the reading node, we see exactly how to round out our visual input. Articles are fantastic for bite-sized, factual reading. Stories and novels are where you really build up your stamina. They pull you into a narrative and make you completely forget you're even studying. And passages are great for intensive, short-form comprehension tests.
If you are constantly absorbing from these four sources, your brain is quietly doing a massive amount of background work to map out the English language without you even realizing it.
Next up, Section 4, Expressing Yourself Clearly.
Crossing all the way over to the western side now, we land on the orange speaking island and tucked right beneath it, the pink writing island. This is the big pivot from the passive input phase to the active output phase. It is finally your turn to produce the language. This is where the real magic happens, but naturally, it's also where learners tend to feel the most intimidated.
Notice the wonderful dichotomy here. Speaking is your immediate, real-time verbal output. There is no backspace button in a live conversation, right? It's all about flow and confidence. Writing, on the flip side, is your written output. It's deliberate, it's structured, and it gives you the absolute luxury of time to sit there and choose the exact perfect synonym from your vocabulary bank.
Looking closely at speaking, notice how the difficulty actually scales up. It starts with casual conversation, just chatting with a friend. Then it ramps up to debate, where you really have to think on your feet and defend a point. Next is presentations, which require sustained, highly structured speaking in front of an audience. And finally, Q&A, pretty much the ultimate test of listening comprehension and immediate, completely unscripted verbal response. Down on the writing node, the focus shifts strictly toward practical, real-world application. Essays force you to structure an argument logically. Emails are basically the absolute backbone of modern professional communication. I mean, getting this right is a literal superpower. Writing your own stories sparks creativity, and drafting reports hones your ability to be concise and totally objective. Honestly, if you can master these four, you can write your way through almost any situation in the English-speaking world.
And finally, Section 5, Perfecting the Nuances.
So, you've got the foundation, the inputs, and the output. Now we descend to the final realms right at the bottom, pronunciation and idioms. This is where our journey comes full circle, taking us from a purely mechanical understanding of the language to a truly cultural one.
The pronunciation node is super fascinating because it's so incredibly mechanical. You have to master the individual sounds, the vowels and consonants. But then there's stress, knowing exactly which syllable to hit the hardest in a word. Intonation is the melody of the sentence. Does your voice go up at the very end to signal a question? And then there's the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. Learning this is basically like getting the secret decoder ring for how every single English word is actually supposed to sound, regardless of how strangely it might be spelled. Because, let's face it, we all know English spelling can be an absolute nightmare sometimes.
Finally, we reach idioms. This right here is where you graduate from sounding like a textbook to sounding like a true local. This includes phrases and expressions. You know, those tricky combinations of words where the literal meaning makes zero sense, but the cultural meaning is perfectly clear. It includes slang for those informal, highly contemporary settings, and proverbs, the historical, cultural wisdom passed down through generations. Incorporating these brings just incredible, colorful nuance to your newfound fluency.
And there you have it. We've navigated the entire archipelago. 8 distinct pillars: vocabulary, grammar, listening, reading, speaking, writing, pronunciation, and idioms. It might look super vast when you step back and stare at the whole map, but remember what we talked about at the very beginning. Everything anchors securely back to that simple compass right in the center. Every single expert was once a beginner who just decided to start here and take it one step at a time.
So, I want to leave you with this question today to really chew on. Which island on this map is currently missing from your daily routine? Are you maybe spending way too much time on grammar and not nearly enough on speaking? Are you reading constantly but never actually listening? Find your missing island, adjust your compass, and take that next step. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today, guys. I absolutely cannot wait to guide you through our next topic.